The research station on Kepler 442b hummed with its usual sterile efficiency, but Dr. Elena Ross barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on the small, whimpering creature cradled in her thermal blanket. The Lynx Cub, though Lynx was merely the closest Earth analog for the alien, feline, gazed up at her with luminous violet eyes that seemed far too intelligent for such a fragile body. "You're going to be okay, little one," Elena whispered, carefully administering a dose of universal antibiotic. The cub's spotted fur shimmered with an iridescent quality that shifted colors in the dim laboratory light. She had found her 3 hours ago, trapped beneath fallen crystalline rocks near the northern ridge, her hind leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Elena had been on Kepler 442b for 18 months, studying the planet's surprisingly Earth-like ecosystem. The lynx-like predators, which she had designated Lynx Keplerius in her reports, were one of the apex species, intelligent, social, and remarkably adaptable. But they were also notoriously protective of their territory and their young. She had named the cub Naira, after an old Earth legend about a guardian spirit. It seemed fitting. The splint was secure now, and Naira had finally stopped trembling. Elena set up a makeshift bed in the corner of her lab, away from the harsh equipment lights. As she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. When she finally looked up at the observation window, her blood ran cold. 7 pairs of violet eyes stared back at her through the reinforced glass. 7 full-grown lynx, their muscular bodies covered in that same iridescent fur, sat in perfect silence outside her station. The largest one, a magnificent male with scars crossing his broad face, tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made her feel like a specimen under a microscope. Elena's hand moved instinctively toward the emergency beacon. The station's defenses could repel most wildlife, but a coordinated attack from a pride this size, Nira chirped softly from her makeshift bed, and the sound seemed to ripple through the glass. The scarred male's ears twitched. He took 1 step forward, then sat again, his tail curling around his massive paws. They weren't attacking. They were waiting. Elena made a decision that would later be called either incredibly brave or phenomenally stupid by her colleagues back on Earth. She deactivated the external defenses and opened the airlock. The night air of Kepler 442b rushed in, carrying the scent of bioluminescent flowers and ozone. Elena stepped outside, her hands raised in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The pride didn't move, but their eyes tracked her every breath. "I helped her," Elena said, knowing they couldn't understand her words but hoping her tone would convey her meaning. "She was hurt. I fixed her leg. She's safe." The scarred male rose to his full height, nearly 2 meters at the shoulder. He moved toward Elena with liquid grace, each step deliberate and measured. Elena forced herself to stand still, even as every instinct screamed at her to run. He stopped mere inches from her, his hot breath washing over her face. Then slowly, deliberately, he lowered his massive head and touched his forehead to hers. The contact sent a jolt through Elena's nervous system, not painful, but startling. Images flooded her mind. Naira playing with her siblings, the rock slide, the pride's desperate search, their collective anguish. And then her own actions, lifting the rocks, splinting the leg, providing warmth and safety. When the male pulled back, Elena understood. They had been sharing consciousness, a form of communication far beyond human capability. The pride knew exactly what she had done. What happened next would be studied by xenobiologists for generations. The entire pride rose as one and formed a circle around Elena. They began to emit a low, harmonic frequency, part purr, part song, that resonated in her chest cavity. The ground beneath her feet began to glow with the same bioluminescence as the surrounding flora. Responding to their vibrations, one by one, each member of the pride approached and touched their foreheads to hers, sharing fragments of their collective memory. Hunting strategies passed down through generations, safe paths through the mountain ranges, hidden water sources, locations of medicinal plants. They were giving her their knowledge, the accumulated wisdom of their species. The scarred male, whom Elena now understood was the pride's patriarch, shared something even more profound: coordinates. Not just locations on Kepler 442b, but stellar coordinates, markers pointing to other worlds, other systems, places where his kind had traveled, or where they knew intelligent life existed. Humanity had been searching for signs of advanced alien civilization for centuries. They had found primitive life, yes, but never evidence of technological society beyond their own. These creatures, these magnificent predators that humanity had dismissed as mere wildlife, were showing her that intelligence came in forms Earth had never imagined. When the sharing ended, Elena found tears streaming down her face. The Pride stepped back, their task complete. The patriarch made a series of soft chuffing sounds, and a younger female carefully picked up Nira by the scruff of her neck. The cub squeaked in protest but settled quickly against her mother's warmth. Before they left, the patriarch turned back one last time. In that moment, Elena felt one final message pressed into her consciousness. Your kind helps. Your kind learns. Your kind belongs. The Pride vanished into the bioluminescent forest, leaving Elena standing alone in the glow of alien starlight. Back on Earth, the scientific community would debate her report for years. Some called it a hoax, others a psychological break from isolation. But the stellar coordinates were real, verified by deep space probes. The locations of resources she documented were accurate beyond any probability of guessing. And in her private moments, when doubt crept in, Elena would remember that night. The night humanity learned that kindness could be a universal language, and that sometimes saving one small life could open doors to entire galaxies. Nira's leg healed completely. Elena would see her occasionally, playing with her siblings in the meadows, always watched over by the scarred patriarch. And every time their eyes met, Elena felt that same warm pressure in her mind, a reminder that humanity wasn't alone in the universe and perhaps had never been. The species that had once been dismissed as mere animals had shown her the truth. Intelligence wasn't measured by technology alone, but by compassion, memory, and the willingness to share knowledge with those who proved themselves worthy. Humanity had passed the test.